Great. Thank you, Mallory, very much. This is pretty exciting stuff. As Mallory mentioned, I'm a senior strategist at mStoner, and so I lead one of our consulting teams. And I had the very good fortune of being assigned to work with Ken Aaron at Paul Smith College, which was a wonderful opportunity and a lot of fun. So Ken, I'm just going to let you tell a little bit about your role. Mallory gave the official bio, but what do you do at Paul Smith College? What's your day like?
Well, Susan, it was great working with you guys too, and I did not get the memo about wearing green. I'm sorry. My day lately has been about this website. We started this project, it's been 12 months pretty much to the day, I think, since we got together. And, certainly since we went live in December, being a webmaster has been a lot of my full-time job. But I wear other hats as well. I edit the campus magazine. I do public and media relations for the college, so I'm the chief spokesman. Publications, marketing, keeping our branding and messages on track. So, we're a two-person department. We're about to bring on a full-time webmaster, which is great. So that'll make us a three-person department, and I am
wonderful.
Thrilled. But yeah, that's pretty much. Every day is a little different. I was doing a video shoot today, and Monday will be something else.
Yeah, I think that's the good news and the bad news about working at a small college, that you get to do a lot of different things at a lot of different points with a lot of different people, and I'm sure it's really fun and challenging, but I'm sure it's always a sense of priority always has to be part of the picture, because I'm sure you're always trying to figure out, okay, with the small time that I have, what should I spend it on? Why don't you tell us, I'm showing a few slides here as we get started, and I just remember this breathtaking photo that I saw of Paul Smith College before I came to campus, and I thought, come on, it can't be that beautiful, and I'm here to tell you it is that beautiful. But tell us a little bit about Paul Smith.
Sure. Well, that is not a photoshopped image. It really is that pretty. We are a 1,000-student institution in the Adirondack Park of New York State. The Adirondacks are a 6 million-acre state park. That means it's larger than Yosemite and Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon parks combined. We've been around for about 65 years or so, and we specialize in hospitality and culinary arts and forestry and environmental sciences and natural resources and that sort of thing. People often say, wow, that's a huge kind of random collection of things to specialize in. My response is typically, well, yeah, those are industries that have been of traditional importance to the Adirondacks, and we remain focused on them to this day.
Great. That's pretty exciting. Thank you for that introduction. I want to just share with people a little bit about the Paul Smith Study site as we got started, and just show a little bit about the content management system that we're also going to be talking about. So I'm going to show a few slides, talk through those, and then we'll do a little bit more of an interview style. But just to give everyone a sense of where we started, this is the Paul Smith College homepage when mStoner began the project with Ken and his team and the team at Paul Smith. And, like many institutions, there were lots of opportunities on the homepage. There was a lot of navigation to be sorted out. There was a need to showcase larger photography that was a bit more tied to storytelling. So this is the way that the site started. I'm going to do and show you the top half, at least, of the new homepage. And you'll see some similar wonderful photography on this new Paul Smith College site. It's being run by a content management system that's called Buzzr Higher Ed, and we're going to be talking more about that. But as you noticed right away, big storytelling feature, big brand message about the Paul Smith experience. It's about the experience as a tagline that the college was already using. And as I shift through these slides, you'll see that, of course, you have a rotating bank of images, and here's a feature that talks about the campus bakery that I actually visited when I was there. It was wonderful. And then at sort of the middle section of the page is this one. We're using a social media integration here on the left with Instagram, and I'm going to have Ken talk about that a little later too. The opportunities, and then headlines and news items, and then going down the page, lovely infographic in the center that was really important statistic that they can highlight. A 90% student placement rate is pretty awesome. And again, just kind of scrolling through a few slides to let you see the bottom of the homepage with the footer, and using a lot of typography as a way, as design elements and as brand promises. So ready for this, and plenty of calls to action throughout the site as well. The site is responsive. It does respond to various viewpoints. So we're using responsive web design. So regardless of whether you're looking at it on a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet or a large desktop, you're getting an optimized experience there. I mentioned that we're using Buzzr Higher Ed for this particular site, and Paul Smith College and Ken can always say that they were the first client that we used Buzzr Higher Ed with. So we're pretty excited about that. In our sense, there are many colleges and universities need a tailored, strategic, creative way to approach their communications on the web, but a lot of them can simply not afford or sustain a customized enterprise CMS. And so we wanted to look for a solution that allows people to have all the benefits of a CMS at a lower cost and be able to launch their sites much more quickly and be a lot more nimble in the web redesign process. A few highlights about this CMS. We're working with a company called Buzzr, and the platform Buzzr Higher Ed is based on a Drupal core. The higher ed features are mStoner special sauce that was brought into the mix, and doesn't require a lot of technical expertise to use or to administer, and it's fully supported by mStoner, and sites are hosted at Rackspace. And just a sense of features. I mean, you know, if you look through this set, it's hard to find something that doesn't appear that you know you need in your site. I mean, there are some pretty basic and core things that we know most universities, from being able to tag content, to show an event calendar, to share social, manage permissions. I already mentioned responsive web design, and later I'll be showing you a little bit about the inline editing and icon-based graphical interface that we offer. And, you know, not to forget, there's some SEO tools and some analytics built in. So lots to show with the Buzzr Higher Ed and also with the new paulsmith.edu site. I guess, Ken, let's kind of step back a bit and think about the planning for this project. And, you know, sometimes you have to watch what you wish for because you actually get it. And I know that you were hopeful about redesigning the Paul Smith site, probably for a while. What's the context that you remember as you were getting started?
Well, I think to a certain extent, websites are kind of the third rail of higher ed. Nobody wants to touch them. They're a little scary to get near, and that's kind of the backdrop for our site. It was not touched for, you know, 6 years or so before we did this. And, you know, it wasn't touched for 6 years, even though there was kind of a sense that it never really worked from the very day that it launched. And it finally got to a point where it was really a significant competitive disadvantage for us. And I think there was general consensus that we needed to do something. The site was out of date. It was difficult to navigate. The information on it was out of date. It was very difficult to update the site. And to the institution's credit, you know, we all got together and said, okay, let's make this happen. And we did. I mean,
right. Great. Yeah, I remember from the beginning when we started talking with you all that we were very impressed by you and the rest of the team and the leadership team at Paul Smith, because there was a commitment to the web and understanding that an investment had to be made. Sometimes I wonder about small schools, and you know, we've already mentioned the limited resources that you have, yet I think that our prospective students and their families and other influencers come to the website of a place like Paul Smith, and they have the same expectations of that site that they do from a site that might be, you know, managed and run by 18 people. So did you think about staff resources as you were planning the project?
Sure, we absolutely did, because, you know, it's a two-person communications team. We know that we don't have the resources of like a news staff that can, you know, generate updates on a daily, if not hourly basis. So we know we have to repurpose a lot of things. And we definitely wanted a design and a website where we could showcase news and showcase items, but it wouldn't be just a beast that needed to be fed all the time.
Right.
So that was absolutely a consideration. It was also a consideration from a technological standpoint because we don't have a web development team here on campus. So we knew that whatever we got would need to be updated or updatable from our end without a need for coders and whatnot here on staff.
Okay, great. My imagination tells me that the people who are listening in right now and watching us on this webinar, many of them are probably nodding their heads because I don't think you're alone in the situation that you described. And I think that a lot of folks are struggling too. You know, content itself is enough of a beast to feed without having to feed a technology beast too. And so I kind of think of this site and of the CMS that we're offering through Buzzr Higher Ed as being one that uses technology in the best way, doesn't get in the way of the content and the communication that you're trying to do. And so I know we'll be talking a bit more about that. But another question I had for you about getting started, what were the core challenges that you guys were trying to solve? I mean, what were the things that, you know, you mentioned that you were at a competitive disadvantage. Were there particular core goals and challenges that you were trying to address with a new website relaunch?
Sure. I think that our previous site didn't do a great job of highlighting the various messages that we were trying to present. And one of the challenges with that is, you know, I mentioned that we have kind of a wide variety of specialties. It was difficult to showcase that. I think the design that we ultimately came up with had a pretty good sense of what we're about. You know, it uses that big photography, but it also tells, you know, stories with the words that we're able to use as well. And I've heard that from a lot of people since we launched, people on campus who were the hardest to please, I think, as well as people off campus. They really get a sense that, you know, this is our story, and now we're in charge of it.
I mean, Ken, I don't know, putting you on the spot here a little bit, but
Sure.
Should we just walk through some of these sections of the homepage and have you talk a little bit about how you're using them and what's working, and maybe even if you have plans for the future, tell us about those too.
Well, I mean, obviously the most visible thing on the homepage are those sliders,
Right.
which, you know, we have a huge collection of really good photography that we've never been able to showcase. I think some folks even here on campus were surprised to find out the photography that we do have in the can because we're just never able to use it on the old site. And I'm sure we'll talk a little more about the CMS that we have, and the answer is we had no CMS. Every update we made, we had to go off campus to somebody to make it for us.
So there was no legacy. The legacy was that there was none.
That's right. There is none.
Yeah.
And even though the guy who was doing it off campus for us, he was very responsive. He did a nice job. It was still somebody who wasn't, you know, he wasn't thinking about our website on a daily basis. And as a result, a lot of stuff was never updated. You know, I think it's very clear from looking at, you know, this navigation structure where you can go from the top. You get a sense of where we are. We're in the Adirondacks. That's very important to our identity, and it's very important to our students as well. You know, we have that link to financial aid smack in the middle of the nav bar right there, which, you know, accessibility is a huge part of what we're about, and we want students to find their way to those aid pages as early in the process as they can, especially because a lot of our students don't necessarily come from really well-heeled backgrounds. You know, and you can scroll down the homepage as well and see, well, there's that Instagram feed. You know, we're able to showcase video on the homepage now, which is something that was kind of unwieldy to do before. You know, we have this news section right here. We never had up-to-date news on our old website, which, well, you know, I'm the news guy here on campus, so that's something obviously I, you know, kind of stuck
near
in
and dear to your heart. Right. Yeah.
So, and there it is. I mean, it's great to be able to showcase to people, you know, we're a small campus, but we're really vibrant. Things are happening here all the time. And again, a little farther down the page, just more access points to important parts, information we want to highlight. And finally, at the very bottom of the page, some feature stories on topics that are near and dear to us. So,
right.
really from top to bottom, it paints a pretty good picture of what we're all about.
Right, right. Cool. That's great. So, talking about the CMS, tell me how many folks are using the Buzzr platform now on campus?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would guess
Ballpark.
At this point, I'd say between, let's say 15 people are
Okay.
using it.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than that. I'd say regularly using it. We've probably got about 10 people regularly using it right now.
Okay.
I think all of them, the first reaction is, but I've been sending this to somebody else to do. Can't they do it for me? And like, no, although some people are like, that's great. I want to do it. Start me today, which is terrific. I think once we got all of them up and running on this, they were all pretty surprised at how simple it was. I mean, it looks like Microsoft Word, the interface
Good.
does when you're in the CMS. It's something they
Right.
can relate to. Like, oh, I've seen that before.
Right.
And in general, the folks that are using it, once they get going, I don't hear from them again because it's fairly intuitive. There are certainly some folks that I hear from again, and I work with them as much as they need to get used to working with it. But people have been very happy. The folks who are using it now are the power users to a certain extent. They have pages with information that changes on a daily or a weekly basis. Our student-run restaurant, for example, they change their menu every week. So rather than have them send me a menu, I've taught them, okay, this is how you upload a new menu. This is how you change that information. And
that's great.
That's
that's a small thing, but I can't tell you how many campuses I've been to where the students say, if our website could just tell us what the menus are going to be in the various, dining facilities, and the fact that you've been able to, make sure that the folks who have the most ready access to that information are actually able to update the web pages quickly and easily is awesome.
Absolutely.
So,
our student activities folks, they do a great job giving students stuff to do up here, which is really, if you could see where we are on a map, you see that we're kind of out there. And, there was no real way on our old site to highlight, there's a billion things for them to do, but now I've got them up and going on the calendar, and they can plug, 7 days a week worth of activities onto the events calendar, and it's gone from looking like nothing's going on to all of a sudden, oh, there's a lot of stuff going on.
That's great. That's great.
Sure, that's just a couple of examples.
Well, there's, I want to talk a little bit about just the length of time for the project because, when we do website redesigns at mStoner, I mean, it really varies depending on the client we're working with and the scope of the project that we have and whether or not they've, selected a CMS. But typically, those projects are somewhere between 9 to 12 months. We came to campus in late April, April 23, 24, and 25 to be exact, and you launched your site in
I think it was December 17th, perhaps?
It was. You probably even know the time of day. But, yeah, so, we're talking about 8 months. And when you take into account, Ken, how many people were working with you on content migration when you were at the very end there, when you had Buzzr up and running and, we were supporting you, but you were doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Was that just you?
No, it wasn't just me. There was my other colleague in communications. He was a huge help, and there was another person who pitched in here and there. But so for all intents and purposes, we had 2, maybe 2.5 people working on migration.
Right.
It was a bear. It was a lot of work. I don't think I knew quite how much work it was going to be, but it was literally all that I did from the beginning of November until the day that we launched.
Right. Now would you say that you launched your entire site?
The vast
still
majority.
A little bit of content?
There's certainly stuff out there that, and there's a few things that still, that we haven't managed to get over yet, and a few things on even our old legacy site that we haven't quite shut off at this point. But the vast majority of content was moved over.
Okay, that's an incredible accomplishment. I'm sure you know that, but I mean, to do that amount of work in a really, really short period of time is pretty incredible. This is just showing a little bit of an editing that's done on the site area of content, and you can click. And as you've already mentioned, Ken, this looks a lot like Microsoft Word using the WYSIWYG editor here, so folks have access to all the kinds of things that they're used to using in something like Microsoft Word. Any comments you want to make about the inline editing and how that's going and features that you like about that?
Well, like I said, I love it because people see it and they know how to do it. You know, once you give them a very quick training session, you can leave them to their own devices and turn them loose. Users also have a hard time breaking things with this setup. You know, even if they do the unexpected, you can always go back in, and it's not terribly difficult to unbreak stuff. So it's great.
Great. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So
users, by the way, but I was just going to say, users are always when they log on for the first time after you set up their account, they're always kind of thrilled to see the magical powers they've been granted that they didn't have as mere site users before.
Right, because as you've already mentioned, they really had no opportunity to edit their own content other than what it takes to write an email to ask someone else to do it. So that's really, really a very different experience. Yeah. So we are trying to take advantage of lots of drag and drop options and opportunities with inside Buzzr CMS. We have pretty easy to use and easy to understand icons that let you build pages, and of course the set of tools and icons and features that you see are tied to your permissions and what you have access to within that system. The permissions are fairly straightforward and simple to set up. I mean, Ken, I know we've got you as probably the Uber Buzzr king there on campus, and I know that you have access to lots of different tools and features that you can turn on and turn off for folks.
Yes, I do have the power to break things.
But if you do, you have support from mStoner, because part of the Buzzr CMS includes support and ongoing maintenance and hosting from mStoner. And so I'm hoping that we haven't disappointed you there now that we're out of project mode, that we're still providing you with great support and that it's still...
You guys are still partners with us on this project, and I work with you on a weekly basis, certainly, if not even more frequently than that. So it's been great. I've been really happy that we've been able to continue that.
Great. So what's when you think back about getting started and what it took to get through to the project, and it's been launched, what, 4 or 5 months now, what was the most surprising part of the project or the work or the migration or whatever you did? What were some things that surprised you that you didn't expect?
I think the most surprising thing, honestly, was how much time that content migration took. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting. I'd just never done it before. So, and there was a lot of work that needed to be done, frankly, to tidy up our old pages. I was very loath to simply carry a page that wasn't really working on the last site and put it on the new site. So it was a lot more than cutting and pasting in that 6 or 7 weeks that we devoted to that. The more folks that you can round up to kind of take care of that content migration and content editing is great. And what? I guess looking back at it, I didn't really need to wait until November to start tidying up pages that we were going to be porting over. But, there's other stuff going on in your life, yada, yada, and it didn't happen. But, I would definitely suggest, just start getting the stuff in the can, ready to move as soon as you can.
That's really good advice. And, it doesn't matter what university we're working with, what college, what CMS, it doesn't matter what the circumstance. Content is one of those areas where you can't, as you've already said, you can't start too soon. And it's really hard for people to believe you when you tell them that it really does take more time than you expected to. And particularly if you're doing what you did, and that is you didn't just want to copy and dump, legacy content into a brand new site that was hopefully going to do a better job of making you competitive and telling your brand story. So it's probably really great that you spent the time you did on the content development too. I'm going to kind of wrap for a moment and give us a chance to breathe here. And Mallory, tell us, do we have any questions? Are there any folks out there that want to ask something of Ken or of me?
Yeah, Susan, we've had a lot of really great questions actually. And the first is about usability testing. Ken, did you do usability testing? And can you tell us a little bit about the results?
We had weather on our old site, um, and we
Like
used
a weather bug kind of thing?
yeah, we actually had a weather station here on campus that I don't think is quite operational at this point. So, and it happened to
Right.
become non-operational about the same point that we cut the new website over. Um, we actually didn't include for weather on the new website, but people really
Mhm.
seem to like it. Now, I can
Mhm.
tell you that it's really cold for a good chunk of winter. You don't need a weather station for that, but people want to know apparently what the weather is.
They want to
Um,
know how cold,
they
right?
want to know how cold. They want to know if this is
Right.
the morning we're going to be 40 below, and yes, we get there occasionally. Um,
Yes.
so hearing that people really seem to like that, it's like, okay, well, I think we can figure out a way to get weather information somewhere on the new site. Um, I'm just trying to think of some of the other things. Photography was a really big one. We also heard from the usability testing how much people liked the Instagram feed that runs on the
Good.
homepage of the site. Um,
Good.
uh, that's been one of my favorite features from the minute it was introduced in the design stage, and I've been really happy to hear. I was just talking. He put something on Instagram and it showed up on the home page, within a half hour, and he was telling me how happy he was about that. I'm like, well, you keep posting.
That's great. That's
And
wonderful.
he
It's
thought that
great
was
to be
really
able to,
cool.
yeah, I mean, just to have that dynamic content there on your homepage is really great. And it does sound like you're definitely a victim of your own success, which is always good. Folks are wondering, who's moderating that and how easy is it to refresh the photography there? So, Ken, what's your process?
Sure. So the Instagram feed is actually there's a service called Snap Widget that we've been using that gives us code, and that code goes on the homepage. And any image that the college's Instagram account likes turns up on the homepage here. So we've asked people in order for us to keep track of the images coming in, we asked them to use a certain hashtag. In this case, it's Smitty Pics. So we've asked people to hashtag their stuff Smitty Pics. A couple of times a day, I go on Instagram. I check to see what's fresh under Smitty Pics, and 90% of the time, I'll click like. It takes all of 20 seconds twice a day to moderate that stream. And we've gotten something like 400 something pictures submitted with that hashtag since it went live in December.
Wow. And when you
That's
consider
awesome.
that, yeah, and part of that was winter break, that's incredible. That's really great.
Yeah, yeah, the kids love it,
Cool.
and it's great. I'm thrilled that they like it.
Yeah, when we're talking to clients, oftentimes people are really concerned, and actually I've gotten this question almost every time I've presented at a conference on social media. Um, you know, how do you moderate? Aren't you worried that people will tag inappropriate things and this and that? So to hear you say that you really haven't had any inappropriate photos, some not relevant, but nothing really inappropriate, is not out of line with what I've heard from other folks, but it's a nice reminder that, our students are smart and can self-moderate when they know that something can potentially be really public. So that's really awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. In
Yeah.
fact,
So
I just liked two new pictures while we were talking right here. So if you refresh our
that's just
homepage in
that's
a
just
couple
how
of
easy
minutes,
it is. That's just how easy it is, right?
yeah.
That's so cool. That's great, Ken. Hey, we've gotten a few questions about the Buzzr CMS. So the first, and so there's like 3 or 4 questions here, so I'll just ask them one at a time. Folks are wondering how easy is the CMS to use for someone who's less web savvy. So say, a faculty member, for example, or somebody who is really just updating a little piece of content every now and then, but isn't going to have to be in that CMS
over and over and over again? You know, what's the ease of use?
I'll take that. I mean, I think that most of the people who are using Buzzr right now, um, I'm trying to think of the breakdown of folks. I haven't given access to students, so it's all faculty. I'd say it's just a handful of faculty and mostly staff members. You know, our Student Success Center, they frequently update their events and their calendar items and stuff, and you know, their tutoring schedules. You know, you sit down with them, and generally by the end of an hour, they've got a pretty good handle on what they need to do.
So Ken, you're doing the training yourself, and are you doing it in a really personalized way like that? Okay.
Yep. You know, we did one kind of mass session at the beginning, sometime in January, where we had, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 people show up to that. But other than that, I've been going around often. You know, if somebody comes to me and says, I need to do this, I'll go show them how to do it. You know, one of the things our new webmaster is going to need to do, and we've been kind of waiting for somebody to get here, is I think we do need to come up with some good governance policies. I'd really rather not have 200 new users on this site, I don't think. If somebody's only making an update once a year, I think we can probably work with them to make their update for them.
Sure.
But for some, you know, and let's face it, you know, if somebody really is only doing something once a year, then chances are they're going to forget how to do it. And then,
right. Yeah,
but
that
combination,
else, yeah.
But
that
for
combination
other folks,
of centralized, you know, centralized management of the site combined with some decentralized. I mean, I think it's always a delicate balance. And you're right. I mean, if it's just, you know, if it's just, you can really devote the time to the people who are really going to be using the CMS regularly in terms of training.
Yeah, and I think it's more likely that we wind up picking a few people per department or per school that have access, and you know, there'll be liaisons, and you know, they can make most of the changes. And if they have more intensive things that require, you know, a little bit more knowledge, they can come to an admin, and we can take care of it. But I've been pretty happy with how easy it is to use.
Great. And we got a question on Twitter. Can Buzzr be set up so the end users only have limited ability to change style elements?
Susan, you want to take that? I mean, there's certainly different levels of. You can program in only a certain amount of style elements, I think, to start with.
Right. I mean, it's, you know, it's like any. Well, I shouldn't say it's like any CMS, but it has the same properties that a CMS has, where there's a content area that the average content editor is able to edit and change, and so they're able to adjust content in that section of the site, but they're not, I mean, Ken, do you have folks uploading banner photography or anything like that, or are you controlling all of that centrally?
No, you know, they have some ability to post photo galleries online, but in terms of like banner images and that thing, we have control over that right now.
That's great. Okay, cool. Any other questions, Mallory? Or I know we're getting close to time, but anything else that's come in?
Yep, just one more, and it's a question about the event calendar. People are wondering, you know, what you're using. Is that through Buzzr, or is it a third party?
No, that's Buzzr. That's a Buzzr module, and it's essentially I think it's based on a Drupal, just a basic Drupal calendar. Our last calendar was a real nightmare, so people have been pretty happy with this. You know, it's got the drop-down menus, and you can break things into categories, and I've been really happy with it.
Awesome. And actually, I'm seeing that event calendar is listed right there on the features page that Susan's showing. So there you go. Awesome. All right. Well, that was it for questions. Susan and Ken, any last words?
No, it was a great experience working with you guys, and everybody's just thrilled with the new website. So thanks.